Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Rahban, and boy, do we have a show for you today. We are going to be diving deep into liposuction complications. I recently put a post on social media that generated a tremendous amount of activity. Dare I say it went viral, and we are so honored to have two of the individuals who wrote in about their experiences and their misfortunes with liposuction who are willing and courageous enough to join us. So we're going to dive in here and talk about all of the abnormalities and things that I've been talking about for quite some time, not only from my mouth, but from the mouth of those who have experienced it. So, all right, let's dive in. Let's get joined by our guests. Marcy and Nicole, welcome to our show. As I was saying to you backstage, this is a first for Plastic Surgery Uncensored in that we've never had guests that we've never met before. And we've virtually met, obviously, through social media comments. But historically, all the guests that I've had have either been our own patients and or guests such as colleagues. So I'm actually super thrilled about this one because it feels like a real show now. I feel like we're getting out all over the place. And so I know that both of you had commented on a post that I had made, and that's how we reached out to you. I'll give everybody a little background. If you listen to our show, you know that in general, I'm very transparent about the pros and cons of plastic surgery. There are things we do that are awesome, and there are things that we do that are okay, and there's things that we do that are shit. And in general, my experience, my 20-year experience has led me to the conclusion that liposuction, which is the most common procedure done globally, my experience has been that the results are at best average. And in the new world of high-volume liposuction, BBLs, fat transfer to the breast, Lipo 360, TikTok, Instagram, OnlyFans, the whole world has changed, that the outcomes have only gotten worse. And so I did what I do on a regular basis is I put out a post, and that post was a bit of a cautionary tale about, it was more predominantly about liposuction of the thighs, but it was just this, it was a case everywhere. And I could not have anticipated the storm that would follow. And what we got a tremendous outpouring of individuals like Marcy and Nicole who stated, oh my God, that is exactly what happened to me. God, I wish I had known, or I wish I had not, who were the overwhelming majority of our comments. There were some comments that were like, you're nuts. Liposuction was the best thing that I ever did. Oh my God, I'm so happy. Awesome. And the funny thing, and the thing that I hadn't anticipated, was all the hate from other surgeons. I had all kinds of surgeons writing on my page that I was reckless and that this was irresponsible, in that I am now scaring patients, and that the reason why my experience with liposuction was so poor was because I'm clearly not skilled enough. So, all right, that was our background. And then we reached out to individuals who had had a bad experience. And this is awesome because you guys are unbiased. You're not my patients. You're not people who we are connected to, but rather individuals who are out there who have your own stories. So with no further ado, welcome to the show, Marcy, and welcome to the show, Nicole. Let's start with Marcy. Marcy, tell me a little about yourself. Where are you from? Would you mind telling us how old you are, what surgery you had, and when it was?
I am originally from Annapolis, Maryland. I'm in Sarasota, Florida now, and I'm 60 years old. And then the first time I had liposuction was probably in 1995 when I was in my 30s. And then I had a second procedure done in 2015 in my 50s.
Got it.
I'm a competitive bodybuilder, and that's my story.
What areas did you have, if I may ask, liposuction in your 30s and 95?
I had my inner and outer thigh, and then I had just above, I'm not sure what the area, it's maybe the flank.
The love handle hip area?
Yes, the love handle hip area. And then on the revision, I had the outer thigh and the inner thigh. I think it was the same area. I think it was just the inner and outer thigh again. And that was the problem.
So the first time you had inner outer thigh and some love handles, and then as you referred to it as a revision. So I'm assuming you did it a second time because of some unhappiness that you had, mostly with the inner and outer thighs, right?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So we'll come back to that. Nicole, hi. Tell me a little about yourself, what you had done, when it was, and if you can tell us your age, that would be awesome.
Okay. 43 from West Palm Beach, Florida. Born in New England. I have quite a history of surgeries. 2017 was the first inner thigh lipo, and 2017 I had a BBL, first one.
Right.
So they did the lipo of the inner again, the thighs, my stomach, and my waist.
Okay. And if I may ask, at the time, when you had the BBL, which was after you had done your inner thighs, how tall are you?
5'10".
How much did you weigh at the time?
How to gain weight for the procedure?
So right there. So I'm gonna make a huge asterisk. Gain weight for procedures. So that means you were a fit, relatively skinny person. There's a huge new world called skinny BBL. I'll get into that in a second. Yeah. Okay, so you have that procedure done, and they which is the instance when you're thin, they have to get fat from somewhere. So they tend to do kind of lipo everywhere, right?
Yep.
Okay, what happened after that into 2017?
A lot of the fat didn't last. I don't know if it was technique. I did everything I was supposed to do. I had some unevenness. One thigh was bigger than the other. I wanted more fat in my butt. A lot of it I felt like didn't last. So I had it done again in 2018. Another BBL. And the only difference in the lipo area was the back this time. So they added the back, but did everything again. I had to gain weight again. So
different surgeon or same surgeon?
Different, because I didn't like the first one. Different surgeon. He said, I was concerned with the already had laxity. It was a little loose in certain area on my thigh and inner thighs for sure. And he was like, "Oh, well, do J plasma. It'll be fine."
Correct.
So I had that done with the second BBL, J plasma.
Right.
It made my cellulite worse. I had Selfina. I don't know if you're familiar with that procedure.
I just know there's a lot of them. I was at a conference. I was literally at a conference yesterday, and I felt like I was in an alternative universe. I was walking through the area where they do all the sales, the booths, and I was just being attacked from everywhere. Dr. Rahban, it was like every machine ever known to man. Everyone's trying to fix every problem. I'm sure 2 of them were for cellulite, 5 of them were for stretch mark. So you had a Selfina to kind of help.
Anything, I had Selfina before any lipo, but then it just undid the result. I did actually see an improvement. The lipo made my cellulite horrendous. So, anyway.
Right. And then anything after 2018, or that you threw in the towel?
Just a breast augmentation in 2019. No complications.
No issue there.
Different surgeon.
Got it. So let's talk about why this is happening. So first and foremost, if you're out there listening, here is the takeaway message. The take-home message is that liposuction, more so than other plastic surgery procedures, has a higher risk of having issues in comparison to a breast aug or, say, a tummy tuck. And the reason being is not because you didn't find the right surgeon. The reason being isn't because you didn't use the right technique. In my humble opinion, the reason is that the procedure itself is a flawed procedure. So let me explain you the concept and you'll understand. You take a straw, you poke a hole through the skin, and you go back and forth, and you pluck. You don't cut. You pluck out globulates of fat in little chunks into a canister. And then you hope and you pray that you did such an eloquent job that you removed in a smooth plane. Imagine you want to make a street you're making a street, remember this distinction between making that street out of a bunch of rocks or asphalt. And the idea is that you pluck out this fat blindly, right? Because we're just going back and forth, and that you remove all of it in one layer smoothly and perfectly. And as a result, the leftover area, aka the skin, settles down, shrink wraps, and is smooth. That is what's intended. But that just doesn't happen. What happens is you go back and forth with a straw. You pluck out random fat. In addition to that fat, you take out some connective tissue. Not intended, by the way. That just happens because you're plucking stuff out. We can see the connective tissue. We see it. It gets stuck into the cannula. That connective tissue, by the way, is what's attaching your skin to your muscle. Your skin is attached to your muscle. That's why you can't grab it and bring it over your head. It's attached. And those connective tissues get partially removed. And you get a fair amount of somewhat of an irregularity because you can never remove it out perfectly. You get an occasional dent if the person goes too high up towards the skin. And initially you're like, not bad. It's not that bad. It's pretty good. And the reason it's not that bad and pretty good is because it's swollen. And the swelling compensates for the irregularities and the loose skin. And give it, on average, about 12 months, and then begins the fallout. And the fallout is the following. Wow, that's odd. I got a little bit of like a weird dent here in this when I'm looking in the mirror in my inner thigh, my outer thigh, my back, my lower abdomen. What's this little dimple in my skin? God, my skin seems a little looser when I bend down. And as the time goes by and the swelling goes away, those issues, which I just mentioned, increase. Now, the question isn't if it happens or not. The question is how much it happens and how much tolerance you have for it. Some people, people that are heavier set, thicker skin, the exchange is so grand that they're like, holy shit, this is incredible. Their skin is thick and they don't mind some irregularity, looseness of skin. And then fit, skinnier, thinner people, as are the two of you, have less reserve, meaning the skin to fat ratio is lesser. You have less space underneath there to go wrong. You have less camouflage. Both of you are Caucasian, so your skin tends to be a little thinner over time. And as the time passes, you're going to develop these issues. So let's go to Marcy. So Marcy, you had the inner thighs, then the outer thighs. You were a competitive bodybuilder. So here you are at lean body mass. You're eating well. You're doing squats. You're just killing it. And you had some, I am certain, some annoying fat that wouldn't just go away, right?
Oh, yeah. We actually had to adjust my posing to hide the irregularities. And most of them, they were on my inner thigh. The night before the competition, I took a little bit of a diuretic. And that was so that, all the muscles would show. And I had done some carb loading. We depleted my water, so I was really sharp. And that what ended up happening was the day of the show is I just sagged. You could see the inner thigh sag. You could see the back of my leg sag, the inner thigh sag. So I had to adjust my posing to hide it. And
this was the 1995 one, correct? Or is this?
This was, I competed in 2020.
Okay, so this was the second time around.
The second time.
Right. And so I would ask you a question. Did you think that the way that I have experienced it with other patients sort of happened to you? Like initially it wasn't so bad. And do you think that as with time it got worse, or did you experience it differently?
Over time it got worse. Absolutely.
And was it that bad at the beginning, or it was like, it's not that bad?
It wasn't that bad in the beginning, but in 1995, I had no drains. So I had a tremendous amount of swelling. I remember I was so bruised. We didn't have any drains in, and I wore a compression outfit for a really long time. I think it maybe 6 weeks. And 6 to 9 months later, is when I started to notice things becoming uneven, especially in the inner thigh, not so much on the outer, but on the inner thigh. That's where the sag was.
And so let's go through that. Let's just do it scientifically, shall we? So your inner thigh compared to your outer thigh, which skin is thicker?
Outer.
Outer, by like a long shot. Your inner thigh in every single human being is like paper thin in comparison to their outer thigh. Which area, without having had liposuction, is tighter, not thicker, tighter without any surgery? Your inner thigh or outer thigh?
My outer thigh was.
Everyone's outer thigh is tighter than their inner thigh. So there you're starting to understand why some areas do okay and some areas do shitty. Because the inner thigh starts out, without anyone messing with it, thinner and looser. Mm-hmm. And your outer thigh starts out thicker and tighter. So when you do this to it, it tends to be more resilient, although not perfect. So the areas that tend to do better tend to be thicker and tighter to begin with. That's just something to know. So let me ask you a question, Nicole. So you have a pretty vast experience, and this is part of my pet peeve, right? Interesting. So I was on a panel yesterday. Couldn't have been a better panel. I was talking about abdominoplasties, and I was the moderator, and I didn't know, because I didn't look to the schedule, the fourth speaker was about high volume liposuction. And I was going nuts about liposuction, and then I had to introduce him. It was actually quite comical. I was like, all right, well, here is an opposing view to my philosophy. And he does 10, 15 liters of liposuction. That's just an amazingly high volume. Now, one thing that I have to give him is he did admit that there is a decent amount of loose skin afterwards. But what he was saying was that his patients didn't mind. And therefore, the point of this show, the point of the post is, hey, Nicole, FYI, your BBL, let's just say, your butt result, let's hope, is great. But I want you to know, in exchange, you may have loose skin, irregularities, dents, and divots. And then you say, okay, sure. High five to you. Is that how it was explained to you, just the way I said it to you?
No, he was like, you're young. I was 37 from my first BBL and inner lipo. He's like, you're young, your skin's good. Because I asked him about looseness. I was concerned. It's like, you'll be fine. You're young.
Right. So this is why I'm pissed. And this is why you were pissed. And that's why everyone wrote in. They're like, God, I wish I had known. We call that informed consent. You come in, you want a nose job. You look at my notes. Every single patient, at the bottom of my notes, after I'm done with your consult, I write it in bold letters. Your nose will be asymmetric when I'm done. And I circle it. And I tell them, I'm going to make your nose better, but when I'm finished, your nostrils won't match. You'll still have some irregularities. It'll just look better. As long as you understand that, we can go. And patients are like, okay, and they make a decision. So do you think if you knew what you know now, Nicole, A, that some or a lot of the fat that you put in maybe didn't stay, and we can argue about technique later, and B, that your donor sites, that's what this is about, the area we borrowed, right? Paul, you steal from Paul to pay Peter. You stole it from Paul, and you paid Peter. So Paul is poor, Peter is rich. Do you think if you knew that Paul would be poor, that you would have done it?
No, I wouldn't.
And you are not alone. There are a lot of people that say, listen, I wouldn't have done it if I knew this was the exchange. And all we're trying to do is enlighten people that this outcome, the one you have and the one Marcy has and the one all those people, are definitely a possibility, and that you shouldn't go in and everything's going to be honky-dory, because the images, and we're going to talk about that, online are spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot make a nose image look nearly as spectacular as a liposuction image. And it is the social media craze that has absolutely completely pull the wool over people's eyes. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We're going to chat about a little bit more because I really want to get into a little bit of, Nicole, the differences in the areas of outcome, because you had several areas, 360 lipo. And then we'll talk about sort of the misleading imagery and conversations that I've had. All right, guys, we'll be right back with the second half of Plastic Surgery Uncensored with Marcy and Nicole. All right, guys, welcome to the second half of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I am super jazzed about this show because we have some really courageous women who are having a conversation about their experiences with lipo. Nicole, we had chatted a little about the BBL phenomenon. And the difference is, on Marcy's side, she did the lipo because she had a few small problem areas. And, you know, we always tell people go diet and exercise, work out, and here she is, a competitive bodybuilder. On your end, you didn't necessarily go do it the liposuction because you hated the areas that you liposuction. You were hoping to enhance the contour of your butt, and a BBL is a very well-known, highly reputable procedure. And so you went in with a different need. So you go in to enhance your buttock, and then you come out and your butt is maybe okay or not the same or as much as you'd like, but then now you have all these other areas. So let's talk about the areas and how it all started to happen. What is the worst area right now in terms of the loose skin irregularity issue?
Specifically like the back of my left thigh.
Okay.
And I have some rippling on my stomach.
Have you had any children?
I have one, 21 years old.
Okay. So you had a child many, many years ago, right?
Yeah, I'm 43 now.
Okay.
41. So that is there. On my back, I always had a very nice back. There's some bulging area from lipo. The looseness on my inner thigh is there as well. It's not as bad as the back of my thigh, I guess. But it's there. So what else? So I'm just glad I didn't do my arms too.
Yeah. So what you mentioned, so let's go through the areas. You liposuction the back. It's a very common area. The upper back that you liposuction, what it does is it loosens the attachments, and then you get a settling that occurs. And then when you reach back behind to grab your bra strap, assuming that you are in reasonable weight, you're going to have skin there that you didn't really have. It's a little stretchier than it was. Yes or no?
Yep. And I can't believe it because I'm pretty thin. I mean, even losing weight doesn't get rid of it. Nothing.
Right. So as you lose weight, you will find that it gets worse because you are organically enhancing the loss of volume, right? If someone lost 150 pounds and they came to me, they're going to have loose skin and irregularities. All we're doing with liposuction is accelerating that process by doing it mechanically, right? So, and then what happens is you go in, you say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I did liposuction. It didn't turn out good. And what do they offer you as a solution? Liposuction.
Yeah.
They liposuction a liposuctioned area because of irregularities in loose skin, and it's just mind-boggling. And you did your love handles, correct?
Yes.
Love handles tend to do okay.
Yeah.
How were your love handles?
Fine.
Marcy, you did a little bit of love handles. How are they?
That turned out okay.
Well, there you have it. So when I do liposuction, in the rare occurrence, it's the love handles. And I do it very judiciously because it's an area where skin can sit without showing. It's very thick. And because it's curved, it has a long axis and the skin gets swallowed up. Flat areas do shitty. So what's a flat area? Lower abdomen. Nicole, what's going on with the lower abdomen?
Well, right around my belly button, it's really ripply. It was caving in, so they put more fat in there, and now it looks lumpy and it's rippling. So I've been trying to figure out what to do next. One of the doctors here said, do Morpheus. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like the crap that my wife has been doing with her spine. You get to a place where you're unhappy and you're desperate and you're disappointed, and all you do is other physicians keep throwing just shit at, like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. And next thing you know, you're 6 spine surgeries in or 3 rhinoplasties later, and you just can't understand how this has happened. So the reason the lower abdomen does incredibly poor, especially if you've ever had a child, is that no matter how spectacular a woman you are, you've given birth to a human being through your abdomen, and it stretches. And it happens in non-pregnant women, but definitely in pregnant women. That lower abdominal skin really had taken a toll. I mean, you were 9 months pregnant, presumably 8 months pregnant. So that skin is very fragile. It is almost akin to the inner thighs, also a vertical area with thin skin. So you'll see that people's complaints are very similar. Upper back, not good. Lower back, aka flanks, not so bad. Outer thighs, okay, not so great. Inner thighs, terrible. Lower abdomen, terrible. Arms, not so good. And this is something reproducible because as humans, we're built very similar. So the key to it is just, if you're going to do it, number one, you have to be conservative, meaning just take out very little. But that's not what people want to do when they need fat for something else. So I think what turbo boosted this problem, Marcy did selective lipo, but she was super thin and fit. Didn't get a good result. Nicole, you did circumferential lipo, what would be considered high volume for your body, because you needed it, right? We're trying to enhance another area. So this is the world of fat transfer. Now, what are the biggest pitfalls? Imagery. Did you guys go online and look at results before you did this procedure?
Tons.
All right. How many people did you see with rippled skin?
If you dig deep, maybe on Real Self, some botch jobs, but overall, it looked amazing. So I looked amazing at first.
Right. So hold that thought. You go online, you go to Dr. Joe Schmo, reputable 5-star reviews, yada, yada, yada. And you go to their gallery and everyone looks pretty good. Right? Mm-hmm. How far out do you think those people are? Realistically. Not what they tell you. How far out do you think those people are?
Maybe a few weeks at most.
Maximum is three months. Maximum. You need the bruising to go away.
That's true.
You need that shininess to go away from that, like, I just had surgery. Mm-hmm. But you need there to be just enough swelling that it looks taut. And by the way, that's advantageous both to the area that we borrowed as well as the area we transferred. Because the butt is fuller, the thighs are fuller. Yeah. So when you go on social media, so that's the doctor's side of it, right? So the doctors put out images that are flawless. The second problem with images are how many non-flash driven photos did you see? How many photos did you see with overhead lighting and shitty lighting from cross window off of a mirror? They're all high flash photography, right? Yes. What happens with high flash photography when it comes to cellulite?
Probably looks a lot better than what it really is.
It's gone. I mean, it's gone. It's not even there. Mm-hmm. Well, so the photos are. What's that? Go ahead, Nicole.
I commented on BBLs where they had before all the cellulite and then the after. There's no cellulite, and I'm like. And I'll say on Instagram, that's not real. The cellulite definitely didn't get better. Like, show the cellulite. Show it. Like,
yeah. So you guys are on the other end of the David Horowitz investigative people because you know it's full of shit. So when you shoot photos that are early, you get the benefit of the donor site looks good, the area that you transferred looks good, and you're using flash photography. It's a win-win-win. It is almost impossible not to get a good result. Then you get to the patient side. You go to all these OnlyFans girls posting photos, and they're all photoshopped, and they're all contoured, and no one has a wrinkle within 100 miles. So they're not telling you either. It's a super dangerous world because you don't have that with rhinoplasty. Sure, you can put on some makeup, but if your nose is botched, it's botched. And you're sure as hell going to hide it. You're going to be pissed. But somehow the liposuction world is a world that continues to just expand and expand. And what I found so fascinating was that when I posted my post, the area that I found fascinating was not all the people that said they were unhappy. It wasn't the area where there was people that said they were happy. The area that I found fascinating were all the doctors that were pissed. How irresponsible of you. That is reckless. And so what does that tell you inherently? If a doctor goes on another doctor's site and says, how dare you warn people that a procedure has potential side effects? I mean, it's just screaming, as far as I'm concerned, alarm bells. And so that inherently is a problem. And so it is something that I think is an epidemic, because liposuction is something that you do in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. It doesn't require a lot of money. So it's an easy entry point. You do it when you're young and you're kind of not so investigative. And then you end up, if you are the 75%, which is my opinion, I don't know this to be a fact, that don't have a good result, as opposed to 25%, you really are left kind of very disappointed. If you're lucky, it's subtle and it's between you and yourself. If you're unlucky, it's major and it starts to impact your sense of self. Nicole, how have you dealt with the areas that bother you? Is it subtle, so it's just something you notice? Has it impacted the way you feel?
It impacts the way I dress. I mean, I hide my legs. I mean, very insecure about it. Bathing suit time. I mean, I live in Florida, so it really limits my wardrobe because I'm so insecure.
And are you on these, like, I know you said you go on there and you're like, hey guys, that's not real. What has been your experience? I'm sure you have girlfriends who go get it done all the time and you're like, guys, don't do it. No?
Yeah. Recently, a friend wants to get lipo because she's overweight, and I'm like, that's not a solution. Like, don't do it. Look at this. Showed her my leg. So
and I bet you she's like, yeah, but that's just you.
Yeah.
Marcy, what's going on with you in terms of competitive bodybuilding? Has it impacted your ability to compete in the way that you would want to?
Well, I turned pro 2 years ago. And what I realized, to compete as a pro, I would never have a shot. So I don't compete professionally. I still work out 5 days a week. I still do my cardio 5 days a week. But the kind of the deformity from lipo, it will never go away. Even if I were to get lean again or gain weight, it's still going to be there. And you just can't exercise it away.
No, on the contrary. On the contrary, as I mentioned, as Nicole pointed out, it's actually one of those things, as you get leaner, it gets worse.
Right.
It's almost, as you get fuller, it fills in a little bit. I'm going to touch on something real quick because I didn't think about it. So all the machines are the same. Let me back up here for a second. There is no other industry, no other area in plastic surgery where we have so many iterations of something. We have suction assisted, Vaser, which is ultrasound, slim lipo, which is laser. We have J plasma. We have Renuvion. We have Tickle-Me lipo, micro air. What the fuck? Why do we have so many of these procedures? Because we have to reinvent the same shitty thing over again, and we're trying to fix the inherent problem. The problem is not removing the fat. The problem is tightening the skin. Any monkey can remove fat. But what do we do with the skin? And so all of these devices, the J plasma that you had, Nicole, was done to shrink wrap the skin. And at the very best, if it does work, it's mild to averagely bad. Would you agree?
Yeah, I asked the doctor, did you really do Jade Plasma? I paid for it. It's on there, but I see no improvement.
Right.
So I saw no difference.
So there was people on my side that were like, oh, you didn't do post-op care correctly. What? What post-op? lymphatic massage, you didn't wear your garment. No, that's not true. It's not the drain, Marcy. It's not that you didn't massage it or it's just a shitty procedure.
Did all of that though. I was religious about lymphatic massaging. I did everything.
Right.
Vasor's good, they say. Your skin can't get loose with that.
Right. So what I want to really echo here is people are going to constantly try to, no, it can't be. So it's like you don't want to believe it because you want to be able to do it. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you're like, no, it must just be Marcy and Nicole. Yeah. Oh, it must be the doctors they went to. They didn't do the post-operative protocol. Oh, they didn't have the right machine. You notice instead of saying, no, you can't blame the victim, you got to blame the perpetrator. It's victim shaming. It's like you won't accept the fact that this is in general not a wonderful technology. Does it mean you should never touch a liposuction cannula? No. It means A, make sure you're informed. B, expect that there will be some kind of irregularity. And C, make sure that if you do it, it's done conservatively. Right? But do not go in there and fool yourself that it's some, pie in the sky. Right? And, I think at the end of the day, the reason why I get so passionate about it is here we have two beautiful women who, you guys are in shape, you work out, you take care of yourselves. This is not about, gaining, losing weight. And both of you have expressed that the procedure you did, unbeknownst to you, left you with some type of deformity that has impacted your life so greatly that you can't wear the clothes you want or can't do the sport you love. So it is not mild. It's not just some little something. It's not a little mole. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And you guys are just two out of the people that wrote in. Right? So just imagine that list of people on that post over and over. Oh my God, it happened to my mom, it happened to me. So I think it's really important that we have this conversation instead of the opposite conversation about how great it is. Second of all, really, really give you guys a lot of appreciation, to come up, tell your story, have people hear that, you did this procedure and it didn't go well. Because I think the reality is just like anything else, it requires a voice. Someone's got to talk about it. Otherwise, it'll just keep happening.
I thought that when I originally got the procedure, that it would reduce the amount of cellulite. I mean, that was my biggest complaint. I felt like I had kind of saddlebag legs and I had a lot of cellulite. But the truth of the matter, at the time, I wasn't exercising. I had a poor diet and it wasn't hereditary. It was just my lack of activity and the fact that, I wanted an easy way out. And I thought lipo was the easy way out. And I think, again, what I expected was that it would help the cellulite, but it didn't. It absolutely didn't.
And in particular, of the items that it's designed to address, not only does it absolutely not improve cellulite. Again, absolutely not improve cellulite. 0, not 1%. It makes it worse. Because unlike this area is fat and full, I remove the fat, then yes, it will be smaller. Cellulite is dense in the skin, connective tissue that are puckering. And then when you go underneath it and excavate out the fat that's supporting it, it creates a worsened effect. So you are absolutely correct in that a lot of people go in. I think Nicole had some component of it, hoping or wishing that the cellulite will improve, and are left so disappointed that it didn't improve and is arguably worse. Yeah. And then in terms of the BBL concept, especially what I refer to as skinny BBL, I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate mail. If you are a heavy-set woman and you have a tremendous amount of donor site available, right? You have a lot of fullness to your body, then you have fat to remove, albeit done well or not well, And then you can do whatever you want with it. Throw it in the trash, put it in your breast, put it in your butt, whatever. But when you are a thin woman and you are lean and you are not built with that physique, they have to chase fat, chase it, get it, figure out where to get it out of you to do it. And I had a gal in my office, which we tried to get on the show today. She was there for her eyelids. She was a beautiful 28-year-old, a 31-year-old girl. She came for her eyelids. And she had, in her story, I was like, hey, what medications you take? Are you allergic to anything? What surgery you had? She's like, oh, I had fat transferred to my breasts. I didn't want a breast implant. Super popular right now, right? People are taking out their implants left, right, and center due to BII. Oh my God. It's a win-win, they call it. A win-win. I get liposuction and I get a better breast. I get liposuction and I get a better butt. Oh my God. Sign me up. And she was like you, a fit girl, and they liposuctioned her inner thighs twice. And she is unable to wear a bikini. And what happened to the fat in her breast? It's gone. She was a skinny gal. She didn't have that robust fat. She gained weight for the procedure. It's like saying, I don't have money in my bank account, so I'm going to borrow it from my friends to make my account look more rich. But it's not your money. It's not your fat. You gained it. It's not really there. It's a falsified sense of fullness. So I think that the precautionary tale in Nicole's story is that I think if you are lean and you're born that way and you want, it's natural, you're born lean, you don't have a fuller buttock, and it is definitely an attractive part of our physique. It isn't a twofer by getting these other areas liposuction. Would you agree?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a tough place, but we're doing our part, right? I'm tooting my horn. You guys are participating, and you participate to the best of your ability. I hope that for both of you that you find some manageable way to address it or deal with it so that you can at least have a higher quality of life. Any imparting words, Marcy? This is your moment. You have the microphone.
My moment. Well, I would say if you are somebody, no matter what age, and you have heavy legs and you have cellulite or you have additional weight, thing to do is diet and exercise. You don't have to diet and starve yourself. Just get on a good nutrition plan, get in shape, do a lot of exercise. And if you have excess skin, that's when you go to the doctor and have him help you with your excess skin. But I just feel like diet and exercise first, and then have the doc do a procedure to help with the excess skin.
Very well said. It sounds actually quite crazy. Diet and exercise. What a crazy concept. Nicole, you got the mic. What would you like to share with whomever is listening?
I mean, I would look at it. You think you're going to come out better, but you come out worse a lot of times. I mean, you just don't know what your result's going to be. So, I mean, I was not ever overweight. I mean, I just never thought this would happen, like cellulite, same as her. I thought it would be better, You think, oh, it's fat, less fat, better cellulite. No. I would definitely do a research and we just take that chance. Everyone should know you can take that chance when you do liposuction or BBL, same thing, The chance you take, it could become.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies, very well said. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Really, honestly, really genuinely appreciate it. Especially no less on a Sunday, all the way from Florida. I love it. My producer's from Florida. You guys are from, I got to get out of here. I got to leave that.
It's fine.
Nicole's like, you got to come out here and do a killing. I think my wife would be ecstatic to leave California. All right, everybody. So that wraps up another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. As always, I hope you've enjoyed our show. I hope that you found it to be informative or guiding or educational. If you dig our show, do me two favors. One, share it with friends, family members, people that you think would benefit. You never know, someone you love is going to go do something foolish and you wish you had told them the information that we have to share. And secondly, if you have anything nice to say, go write something nice for us. We love when people write nice things. All we do in America today is complain. So go write something nice. We'd be grateful. Until next time, that's another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Signing off, Dr. Rahban.